Blonde bomber guard coming by way of the Phoenix Mercury over to the Indiana Fever has made some comments about Caitlin Clark and being ready for some of the things, the spotlight that's going.
This is the inside scoop you've been waiting for. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about some big WNBA news that Fever fans have been eagerly awaiting. Sophie Cunningham, a former Phoenix Mercury fan favorite, recently made a surprising statement about joining the Indiana Fever. The reason behind her partnership with Caitlin Clark might just surprise you. Cunningham didn't hold back as she opened up about the real story of her career, her connection with Clark, and her belief that this team is destined for greatness. For fans of the team, Cunningham's recent comments about her move to the Indiana Fever and her thoughts on joining Caitlin Clark's squad could be a game changer.
41 of 44 nationally televised games. So a lot of people are about to learn who this young lady is. And the other thing I'm going to call, I think there's a chance she's the enforcer on this team.
Sophie Cunningham was one of the Fever's biggest acquisitions, but we haven't heard much from her about the deal or why she chose Indiana. However, if you've been following the team this summer, you know they've made some major moves to support their star player, Caitlin Clark. One of their main goals has been to bring in experienced, seasoned players to build a stronger and more competitive roster.
The more I've thought about it, and I think Sophie Cunningham is going to be the repellent to some of those people that have come, some of those players, some of those people that have come after.
Cunningham finally spoke out in a recent interview with Jenna Almancelli, and her remarks were truly enlightening. According to several sources, there's an interesting angle to how this deal came together. It's widely believed that Sophie Cunningham approved the move, which, when you think about it, makes perfect sense. She wasn't just a trade piece moved without her input. Sophie has a unique relationship with Matt Ishbia, the owner of both the Mercury and the Suns. Not only does she play for him on the court, but she also works off the court within the Phoenix Suns organization. Because of this dual connection, it would have been awkward and potentially risky for Ishbia to trade her without her agreement.
I just think she's had a lot of pressure on her shoulders, and I think a lot of people, no one's walked in her footsteps, and so it's really easy to judge and to say things, but at the end of the day, we all need to empower each other and be there for each other. I think she's done a lot, not only her, but that rookie class. They've brought a lot of attention to our league, and it's needed. Like, this is what we've always wanted, and so why would we not embrace them and make sure they're good? And so when we first played them, I was like, hey, keep doing your thing. Like, you're doing a great job. If you ever need anything, reach out. And then the All-Star game, we were just having fun. I mean, she was playing, I was having a good time on the sideline, and I kind of told her, I was like, hey, if you ever want to come to Phoenix, let me know. But that one kind of backfired on me. Now I'm here, which is great.
When you consider that Sophie Cunningham signed a very team-friendly contract with Phoenix, earning roughly $110,000 a year, just above the league minimum, it becomes even clearer that there is mutual respect between her and the organization. Sophie had become both a fan favorite and a valuable role player for the Mercury, so why would she want to leave? According to Sophie herself, she feels her time in Phoenix prepared her for a bigger opportunity. In other words, it's hard to believe that Matt Ishbia would have traded Sophie Cunningham without her consent. I think it's built me for something bigger and better. The stage we're about to be on and the players I'm with, Cunningham stated simply. I think I'm qualified for this since I've been out here in Phoenix. It hasn't always been easy. There's been a lot of trials, a lot of lessons learned, and a lot of experience. Sophie famously mentioned how her time in Phoenix tested her mental fortitude and perseverance. But instead of viewing such challenges as setbacks, she saw them as preparation. I think it works when you're in a good mindset, around really good people who have a common goal, she said. This is particularly interesting, considering Sophie was with the Mercury during some of their most difficult seasons. As you may recall, she was there throughout the entire Brittany Griner situation and occasionally had to play center. Despite it not being her natural position, Cunningham's discussion of the differences between her responsibilities in Phoenix and Indiana was especially enlightening. She said, I think I just kind of got too comfortable out here in a system that was more maybe one-on-one. My role was to get in the corner, spot up, and shoot. Still, she expressed excitement about expanding her position within Indiana's offense. Sophie praised the Fever style under head coach Stephanie White, describing it as a motion offense that emphasizes cutting and reading. This style suits her well, as she's a high IQ basketball player who knows how to move without the ball. It's worth noting that Caitlin Clark's stats might be affected by this system. If the Fever are transitioning from a point guard-dominated approach to a more fluid motion offense, Clark's assist totals could decline slightly. However, the team could become more unpredictable and harder to defend. Definitely not a bad thing. Sophie's comments didn't disappoint those curious about her perspective on playing with the most anticipated rookie in WNBA history, Caitlin Clark. The obvious topic is Caitlin Clark, Sophie said. What's intriguing is that Sophie revealed they've spoken extensively, even though they haven't met in person yet. She ended up going somewhere else, which makes sense given how busy she is. We were originally supposed to meet there. Other plans didn't work out, but that doesn't mean we haven't connected. Sophie added that she and Caitlin have been messaging frequently, and from those interactions, Sophie had nothing but positive things to say. She's a lovely person with a great sense of humor, Sophie said. Oh, you're like my little cousin. She continued, it's kind of funny because I'm at a weird age too. We've got older players on the team, and then a lot of young bucks. I'm kind of in the middle. It's going to be an interesting age dynamic. Sophie mentioned one of her cousins is the same age as Caitlin. The Fever have intentionally created a roster that blends youthful potential with seasoned experience, something Sophie pointed out as critical. At 28, she's in a unique position to act as a bridge between veterans and younger players like Clark. Sophie also spoke about the heightened media attention that comes with playing alongside Clark. Ever since drafting Caitlin, arenas have been packed and media coverage has skyrocketed. Sophie seems to enjoy the spotlight, a trait not every player shares. I think they brought in a lot of veterans who know how to handle that kind of attention. But I'm not going to pretend I have experience being followed by hundreds of millions of fans. She emphasized that managing external noise requires strong team chemistry. The synergy you have off the court and in the locker room spills over onto the court. So you don't have to worry about the noise. Sophie added, you know what? With so many eyes, noise is great. This mature approach to external pressure is something the Fever will need. There were times last season when it seemed the team was under a microscope. It's essential to have players who can handle the highs and lows without getting emotionally overwhelmed. It's tempting to see what people are saying about you online, Sophie noted, but that's rarely beneficial. One fan even suggested, if you're a Fever fan, just uninstall Twitter, mute all replies, and post like you're shouting into the void. Sophie seems to understand that to compete for a championship, you can't get too high or too low. With social media attention on every play and interaction, her grounded mindset will be invaluable. Her competitive nature also came through strongly. My focus is on the court, winning games, and taking home titles. I'm still go with the flow, but I'm also ready to dial in and win a championship because I haven't done that yet, and I'm going to do everything I can to help the team get there. Fans know that once Sophie steps on the court, her cheerful demeanor transforms into fierce competitiveness, sometimes to the point of drawing technicals. She's one of the WNBA's most intense players. But this year, she'll need to find balance, especially since the Fever can't afford key players getting ejected in crucial moments. Her time in Phoenix revealed another strength: versatility. She played multiple positions, even stepping in as point guard or center when needed, particularly when Brittany Griner was detained in Russia. Thinks Sophie Cunningham will be really important for the Fever, one analyst noted. She probably won't start, but no matter who gets hurt, she can step in and play. I could see her even starting at point guard if Clark gets injured. Sophie's basketball IQ allows her to plug in anywhere, make smart decisions, and avoid mistakes, a hugely underrated skill. She doesn't force shots and regularly makes the right play, helping teammates shine. Her final insights were especially thoughtful. Few people get to work in places where they feel they can thrive and everyone around them is happy and successful. I believe I'm one of those lucky few. That suggests the Fever have built not only a strong team on paper, but also a culture that promotes chemistry and cohesion. The additions of veteran players like Nalissa Smith and Aaliyah Boston alongside Sophie show a clear strategy. Blend talent with leadership. Everyone here has a winning mentality, Sophie said. And when you have someone like me who's willing to do whatever it takes to win and share that drive with others, it leads to success. Before Clark arrived, the Fever had solid players but lacked the structure of a top-tier squad. Now, they seem ready to rise. Sophie also spoke about personal growth. It's time to start living a healthy lifestyle. I'm excited. This year will be full of firsts. This mindset highlights her motivation to evolve, not just as a player, but as a leader. She's not trying to replicate her Phoenix role. She's here to level up. Her professionalism stood out, never blaming coaches or teammates from her past. Her arrival in Indiana feels perfectly timed. The pressure is now on. Can Clark lead the Fever to the playoffs? Can they compete with the WNBA's best? Sophie's leadership, experience, and three-point shooting, 38.3% on 4.7 attempts last season, will be critical. The Fever must surround Clark with reliable shooters to unlock her full potential. Bottom line, Sophie Cunningham is fully bought in on the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark. She's not just a floor spacer, she's a leader with a winning mindset.